You know, some people say that Odoo business management software is like fertilizer, the way it promotes growth and all. But other people say Odoo is like a magic beanstalk because it grows with your company and is also magically affordable. And there's some people who would even say Odoo's individual software programs come together to build the perfect suite like building blocks. Well, Odoo is all of these things. Fertilizer, magic beanstalk, building blocks for business. So sign up now at odoo.com, ODOO.com.
Lowe's knows that free is just better. That's why MyLowe's Rewards is free to join. As a member, you earn points towards MyLowe's money on eligible purchases, get exclusive free gifts, and earn free shipping at Silver Key status, all on top of weekly member-only deals. Don't wait. Join MyLowe's Rewards for free today and start saving more. Lowe's, we help, you save. Loyalty program subject to terms and conditions. Details at lowes.com/terms. Subject to change.
I just don't think we should limit ourselves.
I disagree. We should try to do topics for the October 12th live show that are New York centric. You know what I'm saying? For like theme.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. I think we should expand our horizons a little.
Okay, we are not doing the Etruscans. That's off the table.
Guys,
wait, guys. We shouldn't open that door right there. Remember, it's the Bhopal disaster this week.
Oh,
and I'm sure Eli filled the studio with toxic gas or something like that. Obviously,
it's okay, guys. It's okay. Come on in. It's fine. It's fine.
Wow.
Come on in.
Oh, hey, Cecil. I thought for sure Eli would have, pulled some poison explosion trick or something this week.
Yeah, I was like 100% on that.
Oh, no. Don't. He was going to. He locked himself in a shipping container with a small vat of toxic chemicals, and he shipped himself here.
Right. Huh. So how'd you find out about it?
Well, he Snapchatted me while he was sealing himself into the box.
Oh my God! Wait, he Snapchats you? That's
it's not. I mean, he hired a guy to hack into my TV, so he snaps me all the time, and it goes right to the big screen.
Oh,
right?
Nasty.
I cannot tell you how many episodes of the Great British Baking Show have been interrupted by Eli's dick.
Every episode.
Yeah, every episode.
Yeah, every single one. So you can tell us how many.
I did. Okay. All right. No, yeah, fine.
Yeah.
Anyway, Eli's not going to be here. I returned the container to sender, so we're good.
Well,
that's it. We're done.
But isn't that going to be dangerous?
For Eli?
No, not for Eli. I don't care at all about Eli.
Neither do I. Yeah, I didn't care about Eli.
Who again?
I'm just worried that the chemicals might leak from the container.
Oh, yeah. I was totally worried about that too, Noah, but then I looked it up on the EPA website, and the highly toxic mixture he was using is listed in the summer fun section as best pesticide to have a super soaker fight with.
No.
So I think we're good.
I'm sure it'll be fine then.
Cool.
Yeah, no, that's good. Hello and welcome to Citation Needed, the podcast where we choose a subject, read a single article about it on Wikipedia, and pretend we're experts, because this is the internet, and that's how it works now. I'm Noah, and I'm going to be mitigating this disaster tonight. Now, unfortunately, Eli won't be able to join us tonight. Not sure where he is. I'm sure he's fine. But joining me are three men with airtight alibis in case he isn't: Heath, Tom, and Cecil.
I think the pressure gauge on my alibi is broken. It's not. It's not airtight.
Doesn't matter.
I've been paying a team of hobos to wear silicone masks of my face and stand in front of facial recognition cams just in case. Like,
that makes
waiting
sense
for this day.
Well, and this isn't for me, but this is clearly for you guys. Eli texted me and said his safe word is Bhopal. I don't know what that means, but you guys will probably figure it out.
All right. So before we get started tonight, I want to take a minute to thank the hardworking men, women, and non-binary individuals that make this possible through their generous donations to the show. As you listen to this episode, you might be tempted to think that there are other people in other countries that might need your money more than 5 middle-class white guys with college educations, but you would be wrong.
Jesus Christ.
You think poisoned Indians are going to make dick jokes for you? Probably not. And if they did, they wouldn't be that good. Anyway, if you want to give us money, be sure to stick around to the end of the show. And with that out of the way, tell us, Tom, what person, place, thing, concept, phenomenon, or event will we be talking about today?
Well, Noah, since nothing says funny like poor people choking on toxic gas, we'll be talking about the demographic makeup of the U.S. military. Wait, or the Bhopal disaster. I'm not sure which.
Wow.
Jesus.
All right. So, Heath, you chose a wildly depressing topic. Are you ready to force us to make jokes about it?
Cool. So you guys want to do the makeup of the U.S. military, or you guys want to do the Bhopal disaster?
Let's do the Bhopal disaster. I don't want to be controversial here.
Let's flip a coin. Coin flip. We're doing coin
Heads,
flip, right?
Bhopal disaster. Great.
All right, so what was the Bhopal disaster?
The Bhopal disaster was a catastrophic poison gas leak incident that happened on December 2nd and 3rd of 1984 at the Union Carbide India Limited pesticide plant in Bhopal, India. It's also known as the Bhopal gas tragedy because someone clearly wants us to make a stage play out of it, and eventually, I'm assuming, a musical.
Big pin in that for later. Big pin in that for later. Though.
Cool.
It would still be better than Cats. It would still be much better than Cats.
That's the bar.
And with an immediate death toll of 2,259 people, plus way more than that if you keep counting after a day.
Jesus.
And you should definitely keep counting after a day.
Yeah,
Don't stop.
That's how numbers work.
This tragedy is generally considered to be the world's worst industrial disaster of all time. It's pretty much, this is the formula thing, it's pretty much my favorite low-tech Chernobyl with poison vapor instead of radiation thing.
Yeah. Well, if anything screams comedy gold, it's the worst industrial disaster of all time. So start setting up those pins for us, Heath. We're ready.
Okay, wait. I mean, it's the world's worst industrial disaster that happened all at once and that stopped.
Okay.
You know, like I feel like DuPont is buying heavily for room on the podium there.
That's fair. So here's a quick background on this chemical factory. It was built in 1969 to manufacture large amounts of a pesticide called carbaryl. And in order to produce that poison, you have to bring in a variety of starter poisons and then combine them in cauldrons, producing an intermediary poison and then eventually the final product. But the key is that intermediary poison, which is extremely deadly, like more than the other ones. It's not so much a pesticide, but more of a homicide. It kills people like super easily, as we're going to find, or genocide. I mean, lots of names would work.
Yeah, right. A lot of sides. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of sides. And
infanticide. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah,
yep.
Sure. Yeah.
There's
plenty
a
of that.
famous picture of that. Yep. Don't look it up. It's super depressing. And this terrifying intermediary poison is a gas called methyl isocyanate, or MIC.
Wait,
or
cyanate sounds good, right?
Yeah.
Cyanate.
And the methyl usually is a good one.
Sure. Yeah. No, this is rough, though. The main disaster was because of this stuff called MIC, or Mike. And it's going to be the main cause of death when things go wrong.
So it's a death factory. Right, like this is the perfect setting for this story, a final boss stage, and nowhere else.
Yeah, you know, maybe this whole thing wouldn't have happened if somebody would have paid more attention in Trent Reznor's potions class.
Yeah, this is definitely the stuff of like a terrifying music video, no question. So, but yeah, circling back really quick, I used the phrase "when things go wrong," but just to be clear, they already went wrong a bunch. Like just typing up their poison cauldron business model is probably like the third or fourth worst industrial disaster of all time. Because you can produce carbaryl, their final product, without making MIC death vapor along the way. There's other ways of doing that.
Really?
And they just didn't feel like it.
Heath, can I get a boo nerd real quick from you? Just one quick boo nerd.
Boo nerd.
Thank
me.
you. Thank you. I felt like we needed one of those.
All right. And also, I was not exaggerating when I said cauldron earlier. Normally, you know, you think of industrial chemical plants, you're picturing like big, shiny stainless steel tanks, whole bunch of fancy valves and meters and hopefully safety equipment. And all that stuff is probably housed inside of a building made of walls and a ceiling in most people's heads.
Yeah, my mind went all the way to floor, man.
Sure. Floor. Right.
I was overthinking this.
This facility in Bhopal, based on the images I looked up, it was pretty much the opposite of all the things I just named. They went with more of a open-air mall layout for their collection of poison vats that you definitely don't want to get overheated. And they put them in a part of India with the same latitude as, like, southern Saudi Arabia and central Mexico.
Jesus.
Yeah, the whole thing looks like witches tried to build steampunk submarines out of their cauldrons. It's like old cauldrons that were no longer usable for bubbling witch stuff. Yeah.
I like that they don't even put it in like a cheap shed with an exhaust fan you can turn off. A regular bathroom has better gas remediation procedures than this.
No shit, it's like Walter White took more precautions in an RV in the desert, and he was fictional.
Yeah, he did. So another problem that contributed to the eventual disaster in 1984 was a lack of warning time. The plant did get some official complaints about its safety standards, but that didn't happen until 1976. So they only had like 8 years to respond to those. The first red flag was a complaint from 2 different trade unions that said, hey, we get that poison is your product, but your whole thing, it's just poison everywhere, not just like inside the vats. It's all like, just look with your eyes. It's all over the place. It's like a Lovecraft monster is making French onion soup out of pure evil in your facility.
Right, like at this point, like other death factories are going, y'all are fucking nuts over there.
Yeah, but to be entirely fair, I'm trying to think of a less effective body of people than a trade union in India in 1976.
Right.
And I can't think of any group with less power other than the Democrats.
Oh, well, yeah, it was the Democrats.
Yeah, I was going to say Teachers Union, Wisconsin. Yeah, okay, so there were a few other warning signs also. In 1981, a worker got splashed with phosgene, one of their starter poisons, and he panicked. So he immediately took off his gas mask like a fucking idiot, inhaled a bunch of toxic vapor, and died 3 days later. So pretty much that guy's like entirely his own fault in that case. But
fuck that guy.
That's not really the point. Following the incident, a local journalist investigated the place, saw the terrifying state of the facility, and wrote a series of articles telling everyone exactly what was about to happen. The titles of those articles in order were, "Please save this city." They escalate. That's the starting point. "Please save this city." Next was Bhopal sitting on top of a volcano.
Okay.
Then, "If you don't understand this, you will be wiped out."
That's subtle.
And then Bhopal on the brink of disaster, which it was.
And then Upworthy published a bunch of clickbait articles no one paid any attention to, too.
Yeah, right. Like, these 10 deadly poisons will change your life.
Poison in a cauldron? You won't believe what happens next.
2 secrets Union Carbide doesn't want you to know.
1, get the fuck out.
This one simple trick, leave. Nobody left. Yep.
2, don't come back. Yeah,
Yep.
right.
Yeah. So that's what happened. The public response to these articles was mostly like, I don't read the local paper. Also, I work at that factory. Not even sure why I said that in response to nothing that I didn't read. Am I hypothetical? Who's typing this? So, yeah, basically no response, and everybody stayed put right next to the giant volcano of poison. I mean, they're poor and they can't really move, but they stayed.
Okay, but also maybe if they hadn't taken off their gas masks and showed off all that slutty face skin, this wouldn't have happened to them. You know?
Yeah, basically it was their fault. Got it. Okay, I understand that. Yeah.
Okay, all right, but look, I mean, name 3 things in India that aren't on the brink of disaster right now, let alone 1984. Right? At a certain point, you can't help but start deprioritizing the giant mustard gas works next door.
That actually would have been better if that's what it was. Seriously.
Oh God, Jesus.
Really, really, really would have been, I'm pretty sure. So a few more incidents happened in 1982 after those other ones with the splashing, the phosgene. And anyway, starting in January was the first one from 1982 when a phosgene leak hospitalized 24 workers, none of whom was told to wear any protective mask next to the phosgene poison where they worked. Then, a month later, 18 more workers got poisoned by a leak of MIC gas. Then in August, an engineer came into contact with some liquid MIC, causing chemical burns over 30% of his body.
Jesus.
And this was followed by another MIC leak in October, severely wounding 3 more people. I'm guessing at this point they must have started talking about safety protocol at some point after that, but the whole crew was probably like, splash fight! We have splash fights here every day. It's so fun. So over the next 2 years, they also had more leaks of MIC and phosgene, along with chlorine, monomethylamine, and carbon tetrachloride. I don't know what those are, but I'm quite certain they're also bad. And apparently, sometimes those leaks I just described were in like fun little combinations in tandem, so you couldn't like even figure out if it was just one at a time or
so therein is the problem, right? I don't know what monomethylamine or whatever. Like, I feel like we should have a rule where the name of your chemical has to be at least approximately as scary as what it does, right? Like monodethamine, that would still even fit the rhyme scheme.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah.
I mean, and think of what it could change in the workplace. It'd be like, all right, honey, I'm off to work. Oh, new business cards, by the way. Turns out I'm now a face melting, lung liquefaction, and slow death juice technician. Oh, level 3. Cool. My business card melted. That was weird.
It's right on the nose, though. I get what you're doing. I understand where you're going right now. Yeah. So now it's October of 1984, and the world demand for extremely toxic pesticides has been going down sharply for a few years at this point. But the guys in charge of Union Carbide were like, nah, they're going to want the poison again soon. Everybody wants more poison eventually. Mwahaha. So the plant's in full swing, producing way too much MIC and storing it in 3 giant tanks, 68,000 liters each on each tank that were labeled tank E610, E611, and E619, go fuck yourself. No idea why that's the numbering system. The factory did actually have a few safety regulations. It doesn't sound like it, but they did. And one of them said that none of the tanks of MIC should ever be filled above 50% with that stuff. And that would be a max of 30 tons. That would be dangerous to go above 30 tons of the extremely dangerous.
Excessive.
And I want more than 60,000 pounds of pure evil in one tank. We can have more, but then we have to have more tanks. That's what the rule really says.
Be reasonable about the pure evil tanks. Yeah. And so they'd keep the tank pressurized with pure nitrogen gas so they could pump out the MIC when they needed it. But in late October, the nitrogen system failed on tank E610, and they couldn't pump out the MIC. And at this point, there were 42 tons of it in the tank.
What?
Well, remember the max was 30, but 30-ton max, that's just like a loose guideline for the deadly poison.
You don't want to be super strict on that shit.
No.
Yeah.
If only they had filled these fucking tanks with something safer like molasses.
Nope.
They've got 42 tons of highly reactive poison that they can't move, and pretty much every single part of their safety system for MIC was falling apart also. So they halt production of MIC. They verify that all their stuff is in fact broken, and they go ahead and resume production in late November.
What?
And I didn't skip over the part where they fixed everything. It might have sounded like that's what also happened there. Nope. They just started up again because, again, they felt like it. And a few days later, they earned themselves an episode of a podcast. Congrats.
Like this podcast? What would happen? Would one of them become an obscure magician? Is that how they would do that?
So that brings us to December 2nd, 1984. Union
That's
Carbide.
a great date to giggle your way into, isn't it?
I really had
made
to,
you feel
like,
real
bring
good, didn't
I had
it?
to bring it right back down.
Your transition from the giggle to the depressed, that was really good. I was impressed.
It's 1984, December 2nd. That's my tone. So December 2nd, 1984 is the date. And Union Carbide has a crew trying to unclog tank E610 so they can use all that poison to make poison and make everything safe again.
Right.
But somehow a bunch of water got into a side pipe of the tank and it started a runaway exothermic reaction. And the reaction was made even worse by the rust from the inside of their stainful steel cauldrons.
Stainful.
Also by the hot climate of the location they chose for their poison factory, and by the presence of other different poison from, again, their constant splash fights that they were having so much fun with. So the giant rusty tank started getting way too hot.
Okay, all right. I feel like once we've reached a point where, somehow water got into a pipe equals death on a historic scale, we've already lost the game and we're just waiting for the refs to call time, right?
Yeah, no shit, right?
Like, unclogging the overfilled rusty poison storage tank has to be a terrible job, even for India. Like,
Yeah.
I can't imagine anybody touching this. It seems like it would be untouchable.
Horrible.
India's caste system still exists.
Real. Yeah, so as the exothermic reaction continued and the tank heated up, the internal pressure went from its normal level of 2 pounds per square inch at 10:30 p.m. that night up to 10 psi in the next half hour by 11 p.m.
Wow.
And
Okay.
this is a great time for everybody to pause and appreciate this moment, because for the rest of the story, we're all going to look back with nostalgia at that wonderful time when 42 tons of deadly poison was inside a tank at only 500% of its normal pressure. Fun times. Fun, nostalgic times. So a crew member noticed the super high pressure reading and pointed this out to the management, at which point 2 different senior staff members were like, no. The gauge is obviously broken on that. There's no way the pressure's that high. We'd all be getting violently ill from even a minor leak. I'm going to go projectile vomit right now. It's unrelated, but no, there's no way that's what's happening. And by 11:30, everyone in the tank area was getting violently ill from a minor leak.
Yeah, and Union Carbide is posting at 11:45 on LinkedIn. Human canaries needed. Apply today.
Yeah, right. Only 3 positions available. 4 positions. Wait. Call it a half dozen. Looking for a half dozen.
Open casting call. Yeah. So that's pretty much exactly what happened. Human canaries, seriously, like a bunch of workers are bleeding from their eyes and looking for the leak. And this is actually standard procedure. In interviews conducted later by news sources after this disaster, the workers described themselves, the ones who survived anyway, described themselves as being basically human leak detectors, just walking around trying to play warmer, colder with the volume of fluids hemorrhaging from their face as the warmer, colder indicator.
What the fuck? I feel like there's a different eye-related way of finding things, isn't there?
Depends what's hemorrhaging from your eyes at the time.
How much blood is leaking out of them?
Well, they finally found the leak somehow based on, photons or hemorrhaging volume around 11:45 p.m. And they report it to the boss, who says, okay, that is what it is. But we've got a tea break coming up at 12:15 a.m. That's pretty soon.
No.
I wanted a tea break. We'll deal with this after the tea. Everybody, you want tea, right? And everybody agreed they wanted tea. So everybody fakes working for half an hour before the tea break. You know how that works. And then they take another 25 minutes for a tea break. Probably some kind of interstitial skit at that point during the tea break. And during this time, the tank problem either got better or it got worse. It did not stay the same. I won't spoil it, but it didn't stay the same.
Shit. A lot of suspense. All right, well, now that you're on the edge of your seats, I guess we can pause for a little apropos of nothing. Hey, boss?
Yeah, Raj, what's up?
Well, you know that gauge that tells us how much pressure is in the giant tank of poison?
Oh, yeah.
Well, okay, so it's gone past all the numbers, and now it's halfway between the highest number and 0, and it's kind of like...
That's actually kind of cool. Maybe it'll go around to 0 again, and we'll be safe then. That'll be...
I don't think... Okay, but you know those giant lights on the side? They exploded.
Oh. Well, that's not a big deal. I lost the decode sheet to what the colors meant anyway, so it's not
Okay, and then
really.
also every canary died, and then Sanjay walked by a valve and his face melted off like in RoboCop.
That's Sanjay. What a cutoff, right? Gosh, that guy.
I feel like maybe we
something
should
else.
sound the alarm.
What are you talking about? No, I'm not doing that. Everything is well within normal operating parameters. Besides, if I set off the alarm, we have to reset it, and it's a total pain in the ass to do.
Well, have you ever considered maybe upgrading the alarm?
Upgrading? Are you crazy? There's literally no better alarm than a cartoon parrot with a pull string on its tail.
And we're back. When we last left off, a bunch of parched workers in India were quenching their thirst, and Heath was being all judgy about it. So, Heath, what happens after the tea break?
Okay, so I am being very judgy about it. I judge you, everybody involved in this. So the tea break ends at 12:40 a.m., and the crew harumphily gets back to figuring out how to deal with 42 tons of highly pressurized, overheated poison. Fine, whatever. Hate, stupid job. Want more tea?
I can't believe the tea break part is real.
No, that's 100% real.
I cannot believe
They
that.
took the full 25 minutes. They were like 12:39. No. I'm still on my 25, boss. I'm still on my 25. Thank you.
And you thought their union had no power.
Click 12:40. Okay. So it's 12:40. They finished their tea break. And over the next 5 minutes, the temperature readings for the tank go literally off the scale of the temperature gauge that they have for the tank. Apparently, that thing maxed out at 77 degrees Fahrenheit.
What a weird
Which is
number to max
terrifying,
out.
yes. So the temperature was one of the numbers above 77. I don't know which one. Top of my head, everybody name it. There's a lot. There's so many numbers it could be. I could name a lot of numbers over 77.
It's like what, 1.8 decillion numbers?
It's not a contest.
Yeah,
It's not a contest,
that.
Cecil, but yes, there's a lot of numbers above 77. And the pressure was up to 40 pounds per square inch at that point, or 20 times too high. And that's when a concrete slab above the tank cracked in half. There was an earthquake feel that everybody noticed, and the emergency relief valve burst open. Now, despite this safety feature that opened up a large outflow of poison and theoretically would reduce the pressure inside the tank, that didn't happen. The pressure kept building and got up to at least 55 psi, or as indicated on that pressure gauge, fuck.
Hang on a minute. The emergency relief valve, when opened, releases like emergency levels of poison. Like, this is like playing just the tip with a vat of pressurized poison.
That's exactly what it is.
It's the
Yes.
same game. I'm saying it's the same exact game.
Yep.
Yeah. One poisons your life, the other one poisons people. We get it. So, but they should have just installed one of those cartoon steam whistles on the top of the thing, right? Like, woo, woo, like one of those.
I feel like
Would've
one of
been-
those just installed itself.
Yeah, but then they would have been able to warn people. No, I think that's important too.
There was definitely a lack of funny cartoon noises at this
Yeah,
thing.
right?
In the musical and the stage play, we'll put in some slide whistles. We'll get it going.
Yes, I love it.
And just to review, in addition to the emergency relief valve, which was intended to open at this point, but probably never intended to explode open. On top of that, there were 3 other safety devices that should have prevented any of this stuff from happening. But all 3 of them were either broken, the wrong size by a lot,
Judging.
or not being used because the factory, again, just didn't feel like it. There's a lot of things that just didn't feel like it, so it didn't happen.
This is like the Samsung Galaxy Note of pesticide plants, you know, just ready to explode at any moment.
Yeah, well, shouldn't go on an airplane with any of this stuff. So, the first of those 3 safety devices was the refrigeration system. It was supposed to cool the tank, obviously, and keep it nowhere near the max temperature on the gauge of 77 degrees Fahrenheit. This cooling system was shut down, though, about 3 years earlier, and all its Freon had been removed like 6 months ago.
What?
And I have no idea. And considering they had no more cooling, they also disconnected the overheating alarm, which would have sounded at 52 degrees Fahrenheit. But they disconnected it because I'm assuming that would have just been like blaring for 3 straight years, and that's annoying. Wow. And just for the record, during those 3 years, the tanks ranged in temperature from 59 degrees up to 104. Because again, they're in central India.
Okay, so the first system is a shared memory among some of the workers that have been there for a while. Like if you told me to turn left at the refrigeration, there would be nothing to turn left at.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
This is like putting electrical tape over your check engine light and then filling the car with TNT while juggling lit road torches. What the fuck is going on?
That's approximately what's going on a huge scale, times 68,000.
Yeah, right. No, that would only
Yeah.
be dangerous for you and your car. Yeah, right. No.
And
scale it up.
Let's see what else. We had a couple other safety devices. Another one was the flare tower, which didn't matter either. Normally, that would be a very large pipe that would collect any poison gas that might escape, and it would heat it up, and that would burn up the gas before it reached the open air. But at the Union Carbide factory in Bhopal, instead of that pipe being very large to go along with, a 68,000 liter tank of deadly poison, it was very small. It was a very small pipe. The flare tower had a connecting pipe that was recently removed for maintenance. So the tiny little flare tower pipe that wouldn't have helped anyway was connected to nothing instead of connected to the tank. So didn't matter either way.
See, now this is why you have to play through your Mario Maker levels, people. Don't just throw them the fuck out there. Make sure that shit connects to something.
Seriously, like all these guys remind me of my dad doing woodworking in the garage and telling me like, oh, those safety fences keep you from seeing your work. Growing up, there were like fingertips everywhere. He looked like a declawed cat.
One more missing safety device. The third one was something called a vent gas scrubber, which would normally do approximately what it sounds like it would do. Any poison gas going through the device would be absorbed and or neutralized by a large amount of caustic soda, which already doesn't sound great. The safety material has the word caustic at the beginning. That's not encouraging. But none of this matters because the vent gas scrubber was deactivated that day and in standby mode. And well, apparently you can't just change the mode whenever you feel like it. It's in standby mode for a set amount of time. It's long, I guess, too.
And then 3 workers hung a dartboard on the side of the tank. And instead of using darts, they used a surface-to-air missile on it.
Why the fuck not? Yeah.
That might have made things safer, too, as it turned out.
Well, you explode the gas, it burns up, actually.
Yeah,
right.
It actually would have been better.
Right.
It would have probably just killed everybody there at the facility. So, after the emergency release valve exploded open, about 40 tons of MIC gas got released into the air over the next 2 hours. And the giant cloud of poison was blown southeast by the wind right over the city of Bhopal. And that brings us to the next safety device that didn't work. I said there were 3 earlier. I actually meant all of them, which was more than 3. Anything with the word safety that might apply didn't work. So after the valve exploded around 12:50 a.m., one of the workers pulled the plant's alarm, and that triggered 2 different sirens, one inside the plant and another that was directed outward to warn anyone nearby. Like, for example, the 850,000 people in the city of Bhopal at the time. But as you might have already guessed, the plant decided to decouple these 2 sirens back in 1982. So they could keep the factory alarm going, but shut off the public alarm because, they didn't want to create public alarm. And
Yes, they did.
they really, really did. But that's exactly what happened on the morning of December 3rd. Both sirens got activated, and they immediately shut off the public siren while all the workers evacuated the factory hopefully heading upwind.
Yeah, they actually replaced the public alarm with a music box that played "Go to Sleep, Go to Sleep."
One last time. Yeah, no, just starts playing an episode of Citation Needed. Yeah.
No kidding. Yep, that'll be a fun number in the musical. So the public siren didn't help, and the news of the leak didn't travel very fast. The cloud of poison itself actually traveled a lot faster than the news of the leak, which could have been a phone call right away, but wasn't. Bhopal's chief of police did get a phone call, but not until around 1 a.m., and it wasn't from the factory. It was from a town inspector telling him that the people in the neighborhood of Chola were behaving in a manner that could really only be explained if they were fleeing a cloud of poison.
Oh, shit.
Okay, we've got a 325 in progress. Yeah. Again, no, yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, they are fleeing as if from a cloud of poison. What do you think I am, some kind of rookie? 325 in progress. Now write it down and let's get some tea.
That was at 1 a.m. Now let's fast forward to 1:25 a.m. Does that sound familiar?
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm assuming another very strictly enforced 25-minute tea break. And that's when the police called the poison factory to ask, hey, any chance you guys had anything to do with the cloud of poison that I'm hearing about? Well, I heard about 25 minutes ago, and then I had a tea break. During multiple phone calls between 1:25 and 2:10 a.m., the police were told by the factory that, quote, everything is okay.
Well, there, now. Yeah, the cloud of poison's way the fuck over here. We're fine. We're doing fine over here.
So, several calls. You guys good? Everything's good. You guys good? We're just calling back again. Yeah, no, everything's okay. That happened several times. But then the police called back one more time to be like, are you sure everything's okay? Seriously? Clean slate if you were fibbing, guys. Clean slate. At which point the factory guy was like, yeah, it was us. It was us. We poisoned everybody. Yeah. So the Bhopal Police Department goes into crisis mode, but they don't have any useful information because the factory is run by a cartoon rhinoceros. So they tell the city's main hospital about the leak, but just kind of guess about what poison it might be, which was a total shot in the dark considering the factory is just a giant collection of different poisons. The hospital finally got a real answer about 2 hours into the disaster. Really more like 15 years and 2 hours, but you know what I mean.
Well, yeah.
To make it even worse, the real answer was actually even more confusing. The hospital was told that the leak was mic rather than methyl isocyanate. And they'd never heard of that. Nor did they have an antidote to that because, again, they'd never heard of that. Nor did they have any information about it. So they were just like, okay, the fucking factory guy said it was mic, like the person, or maybe an acronym, mic, M-I-C, no idea. So they're just making shit up, trying to help sick people. No idea what to do.
Jesus Christ.
So the factory finally got the gas leak under control sometime after 2 a.m. And by under control, I mean the tank ran out of poison. They did nothing.
Oh, wow. Okay, it's a tomato moment.
Jesus Christ, man. Good news and bad news, boss.
We fixed the leak. No, we didn't. But we're out of poison. So, cool.
Oh, we're out of poison and the tigers got out. But other than that, we're good. We're good. Yeah.
All right. The tigers won't last long in this poison cloud, though. Don't worry.
One other thing.
That's the good news.
City of Bhopal stole a bunch of our poison. We're going to need to bill him for that. Fuck. But then about 15 minutes later, probably after a quick little espresso break, the plant turned the public siren back on. Seriously, 15 minutes after the leak stopped because the poison was all gone. 15 minutes later, they were like, all right, we'll turn the public siren. This feels like public alarm time.
Yeah.
And really all that meant was that everyone was poisoned and had to deal with an obnoxious loud noise.
Right.
So like, kind of a dick move, to be honest. So by the end of the day, on December 3rd, there were at least 2,259 fatalities.
Oh, my God.
With tens of thousands more who were severely poisoned but didn't die right away, or, didn't die but got super sick or disfigured or whatever. Also, thousands of animals died that day. And According to a government affidavit from 2006, the leak caused a total of 558,125 injuries.
Wow.
Including 38,478 temporary partial injuries, whatever the fuck that means, and about 3,900 permanently disabling injuries.
Wow.
Well, what's a partial injury? How, like, you get half of a poison burn? I don't understand what they meant by that. Temporary partial injuries, and then...
Well, I'm curious about the 520,000 that weren't temporary or permanent.
Yeah, so following the disaster, a giant series of legal actions began that are actually still going to this day. Right away, the government of India passed a bill that made them the legal representative for the victims, and they filed lawsuits against Union Carbide here in the U.S., where the company was based. And in April of 1985, a federal judge ruled that Union Carbide, based on the legal principle of fundamental human decency, those were the judge's exact words, Union Carbide needed to pay $5 to $10 million into a fund for immediate relief before anything else happens. And the company agreed to pay $5 million, assuming it would not be an admission of liability.
What?
And they thought they were still going to wriggle out of the liability of this at this time. And also assuming the payment would count toward any future settlement, which means they knew they wouldn't be wriggling out of the liability. Whatever. India said, go fuck yourself. That's ridiculous.
Jesus.
Oh, come on, India. That's like $9 an injury. You guys, you're a medicine sheep, and you can't count the dead people because you can't fix them anyway. That's a lot of... money.
I tried to actually figure out how much $5 million was in rupees, factoring in inflation from 1985, but then my desktop calculator just said error and sprayed poison all over the room. So.
I hate it when that shit happens.
Yeah, so after some more negotiation, in March of 1986, Union Carbide offered a settlement of $350 million. But then in May, a U.S. District Court ruling officially transferred all the litigation from the U.S. over to the Indian court system. And this was upheld on appeal, and it was decided that this particular Union Carbide plant was, quote, a separate entity owned, managed, and operated exclusively by Indian citizens in India.
Oh, really?
Huh.
Yep. Once again, India responded to the ruling and the offer of $350 million with go fuck yourself. And they claimed damages of $3.3 billion. Jeez. Which is super low, to be honest, when you really think about everything. We'll get there. This finally got settled out of court, though, in 1989 for a total of $470 million.
Oh, my God.
And this was upheld by the Supreme Court of India with the provision that Union Carbide would buy a medical insurance plan to cover anyone who got sick later, and that they'd also build a dedicated hospital in Bhopal to treat everyone. And Union Carbide finally agreed, and they did that stuff, and they paid the money.
Yeah, and I mean, let's not forget, Union Carbide had to serve a month in prison, but they could do it from home, and that was
right, yeah. So. Well, I got to say, man, I'm really glad this one had a happy ending. I was starting to worry. I'm going to be honest with you. I was getting concerned.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun, upbeat musical number to finish it out. Yep. 470 million. Guitars and stuff. Kind of like a rock opera feel at the end. Yeah. So the financial settlement was paid out, and now it was time for the criminal proceedings. This started with the city of Bhopal charging Union Carbide CEO Warren Anderson with manslaughter. But Anderson refused to go anywhere near India, and he skipped his court date. So he was declared a fugitive, and India asked for an extradition from the U.S. But the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that they just, we're not dealing with this anymore here in the U.S. Victims of the Bhopal disaster are not allowed to pursue anything in a U.S. court. It's basically like gerrymandering. They did the same thing.
Okay, hold on a minute. Are you suggesting that we didn't rule in favor of allowing criminal prosecution for individuals responsible for nefarious corporate action? Clutch my pearls, I'm shocked.
Yeah, no shit, right?
Yep, and the only successful prosecution actually came in 2010, but not here in the U.S. It happened when several plant managers who were Indian citizens faced charges in Bhopal and were convicted of negligent homicide. They each got 2 years in jail. They got released on bail right away, but they were sentenced to 2 years in jail, and they each got a fine of about $2,000.
That's fair.
There was another attempt to seek damages against Warren Anderson here in the U.S. based on a law that basically says, okay, you get one last try if it's crimes against humanity. Apparently we have that. But it didn't work. The case got dismissed in 2012. The appeal was denied, and Warren Anderson died at age 94 in 2014. Not of poison, sadly.
Okay, so I get where you're going for, Heath, but when you say it like that, people are going to want to hear your alibi. So. Super clear.
I don't remember what I was doing for a good chunk of 2014. Anyway, the immediate effects of the leak were obviously horrific, but the damage doesn't stop there. It's really sad. Without getting into all the wildly depressing details, we already did a bunch of that, but without adding more, I guess, let's just say this plant poisoned the fuck out of everything near it. Over the years following the disaster, a bunch of different research teams collected samples of soil and water and breast milk of local women, big chunks of face cancer from people's faces, whatever they could find.
Jesus Christ.
And all those things, all those samples had crazy amounts of stuff you're not supposed to have in your body or in the environment. One soil sample, I'm going to give you one quick example. One soil sample collected by Greenpeace in 1999 had mercury levels up to 6 million times the reasonable amount.
I just call bullshit on this. We're supposed to believe that there was that much mercury and no one became a superhero? No one became the $6 million man? No way. I don't believe it.
Well, there was that one guy out there just like, I'm just so full of mercury. Here, let me put it in your butt. I'll tell you how hot you are.
I like
thermometer
a rectal
joke.
thermometer.
It's a thermometer
Yeah, I like a rectal
Yeah,
thermometer.
no, rectal.
I still use that.
It's my preferred choice of thermometer as well. Okay.
Yeah. I was 98.6 today. Doing
Just
good.
as long as you have a dedicated one, it's fine.
I am dedicated now.
Once in a while, you can go ass to mouth. It's occasionally. Once in a while. So the actual value of the damage caused by Union Carbide, both human and environmental, it's almost impossible to actually measure, and it's way higher than any of the settlements. So we're still seeing plenty of legal wrangling, and the excuses being presented by the Union Carbide team are insane. So basically, we have two main lines of argument about the cause of the disaster. That's like the crux of the argument. The victims are saying that the problem was corporate negligence. They usually mention everything I just said in this entire story as their evidence for the corporate negligence. They also might add that Union Carbide inspected its nearly identical type of plant in West Virginia, actually, in September of 1984. And the report about that plant in West Virginia noted the following, quote, "A runaway reaction could occur in the MIC storage tanks, and the planned response would not be timely or effective enough to prevent catastrophic failure." End exact quote about almost the exact same factory. So again, everything I just said in this entire story, also in that little report, and that report was never sent to their Bhopal facility. They were just like, nah, it's fine.
No, they did send it, but they sent it by homing canary, and you know how that story ends. So, yeah.
Well, see, what they need to do is add snappy interjections in a mid-report skit, and then everybody would read it. It would get shared around a little bit more. Tens of dozens of people would listen to it.
And that brings us to the other side of the argument from Union Carbide, who obviously realized they were about to owe billions of dollars and had a team of George Costanzas show up at their factory and start making up the best possible lie. Whole strategy for that. And they came up with the lone wolf disgruntled worker sabotage theory.
Oh.
Yeah, according to Union Carbide, some guy was kind of pissed about getting a shift on Saturday when he requested off, and decided to poison the entire subcontinent.
What?
They're claiming this guy hooked up a water hose to the tank when nobody was looking, and then just like ran away laughing, diving into the bushes.
I'm Sanjay, and this is Jack Asphyxiation.
I mean,
Heath, it seems like this entire argument still relies on building a poison factory with safeguards so lax that you can say, well, it's perfectly safe so long as we treat these Central Indian workers just right always.
Yup. And just to make it even worse, Union Carbide eventually commissioned a report to prove this disgruntled worker theory with like a JFK magic bullet demonstration to show that water couldn't possibly get through the immaculate safety system of tank E610 without a rogue supervillain hose guy. Genius. And just to give you an idea about this report, one piece of evidence was a T-boy who claimed that when he entered the break room at 12:15 a.m. to serve the tea, he noticed that, quote, the atmosphere was tense and quiet. End of evidence. And that was it. Yep. In fairness, though, that report, they also had a bunch of other evidence, too. And it sounds way more convincing than the T-boy thing. But regardless, and this is how I'm going to summarize what I've learned in one sentence. Even if you assume the rogue hoser theory is correct, Union Carbide set up a situation where a guy with a water hose could murder a city in like 2 hours.
All right. Well, I guess my last question just got outsourced to India, so I'll just ask if you're ready for the quiz.
Ready for the quiz.
All right, Heath. Here is a question I wrote myself and did not have any help with.
Great.
If this was a superhero origin story, what would that hero's name be? A, Brown Canary. B,
That's so good.
Rambo
so
Paul.
Brown Canary. Black
C,
Canary.
Pesticide Clops. Pesticide Clops. I like that. D, Quicksilver Surfer.
Those are brilliant, Tom. Those are real funny. You did a great job.
That's really
Really
good
funny.
stuff, man.
I felt really
Pun
good about the way I
mastery.
read those.
You said you wrote those, right?
I definitely
So
know
good.
a lot about
So
superheroes,
good.
so that was my set
You know
of questions.
exactly who that Brown Canary one was a play on.
Quicksilver Surfer is excellent, but it has to be Brown Canary. That's so fucking dark and mean and good. Brown A. It was A.
Well, actually, when Cecil wrote these questions, he didn't tell me the answer, so I'm not sure. Cecil, what's the answer?
It is A. A is the
Okay,
answer.
it was
It's
A.
Brown
Heath, you
Canary.
got it, buddy.
Well done,
It's
Heath.
as racist as it can be, yes.
All right.
Although, I'm circling back. I feel like the musical, we might want to go with Quicksilver Surfer, though, because that would fit the, like, stage thing. We could do a lot of cool stuff with that.
yes.
I understood the
There we
Rambo
go.
Paul one. I like that one. I like that.
Coughing up first blood.
All right, so I feel like we can all agree that a comedy show about this topic was in poor taste. On a related note, what should the video game about this disaster be called?
Just lean into it. We're leaning into it. It's happening.
A,
Leaning into the wind.
Metal Gear Solid. I'm sorry, Gaseous. Metal Gear Gaseous. That's good. B, Gassassin's Greed.
Oh, that's so good. So good.
Thank you. C, A Passage the Fuck Out of India. It's not a video game, it's a novel. I just had to use it. D, Grand Theft Otolaryngologist. Because you need a lot of this. I've been carrying that pun around with me for 16 years, damn it. This is the closest I've ever gotten to an appropriate moment for it. Or E, Bhopal Out.
Like Fallout. All right. No, but no, Grand Theft Otolaryngologist has to be the answer.
That is correct, sir. That is the right one.
So good. All right, I got another pun-based joke here for you, Heath.
Fantastic.
If the Bhopal gas tragedy were a musical, see, I told you to put a pin in it for later.
Oh, no.
Let's
musicals.
lighten this the fuck
was-
up.
What would the
was
title be,
foreshadowing.
Heath? Oh, start of the essay, end of the essay. It's amazing. Here we go. A
Overture.
pesticide story. B, stinging in the rain. C, C, 7 carbides for 7 smothers. Or D, Mama Miasma.
That is excellent. Oh, Jesus. Okay. It's gotta be Stinging in the Rain. That is just
I'm
fucking
sorry.
perfect.
I'm sorry. Huge ABBA fan. It's Mamma Miasma. So
It had to be Mamma Miasma because that's like at least like top 3 puns I've ever heard in my fucking life. Just based, even if he'd gotten it right, Cecil, you would have been the winner based just on Mamma Miasma.
okay.
We could do like a Rihanna umbrella thing for the Stinging in the Rain.
All right. Well, I guess I get to choose then, Noah. So I'm going to pick you because you like the pun so much. So it's you next week. How's that?
Awesome. All right. Well, for Tom, Cecil, and Heath, I'm Noah. Thanking you for hanging out with us today. We'll be back next week. And by then, I'm going to be an expert on something else. Between now and then, you can find us at Enter Show Plug here. And if you'd like to help keep this show going, you can make a per episode donation at patreon.com/citationpod or leave us a 5-star review everywhere you can. And if you'd like to get in touch with us, check out past episodes, connect with us on social media, or check the show notes, be sure to check out citationpod.com.
And if you'd like to buy tickets to the live show, you can go to citationpod.com as well.
We
There's
should
a
have
link
mentioned
right
that
there.
before now.
There's
Yeah,
a link right there. You can just go right there. Live show, New York City, October 12th. Be there. Upgrading? Are you crazy? There's literally no better alarm than a cartoon parrot with a pull string on its tail.
God, what? This is only. It's so close to true. Like it's so close to true.
That was a really dark episode of the Flintstones when Bedrock got gas poisoned.
Yeah. Take you to the killing floor of Dead Rock.
That was even weirder than the Key Party episode with that. Okay.
It's just feet you throw in the bowl, I guess, with the Flintstones. Because they stick their feet out at the bottom of the car.
No, neighbor comes by with a fetish and just takes the bowl, just like that. I got mine. I'm out.